Okay, and we've just started the recording as well. So we're going to have probably a few more people kind of trickling in over the next few minutes. And then once we have kind of critical mass, we'll go ahead and get started. So I will go ahead and get the slideshow going. Real quick, Alicia, if you give me a thumbs up if you can see it. All right. So I'll just keep an eye on the attendance list. And once it starts to 1, 2, okay, we've already got 8. Once we've got a few more here, we'll wait till just a few minutes after 6, and then we will get started. Apologies in advance if my cats make some noise. I'm broadcasting from home tonight. Really hoping we don't have to deal with that. Okay. Also, I'm not sure if anyone is, I don't think anyone here is calling in by phone. If they do, we might just have to give a little help with the phone instructions. I know I tried to call in before with Zoom on phone, and it's a little confusing. So we'll give people a couple minutes if there are any phone users to get settled in. All right. We're going to give it just a few more minutes here. I don't know how many we're actually going to get. So it may just be a small group, and that's totally okay tonight. We'll also be reaching out again directly, additional phone, email follow-ups. And there we have a first phone caller. Good evening. If you're just joining us by phone, you are not able to see the screen, of course, but really don't need to. I'll be talking through everything. Also, everybody's microphone is mute when they join. So at the end, we'll be able to take questions. And if you're on the phone, I'll give instructions for how to do that when we get to the end of the meeting. So for right now, you'll be able to hear us, but you won't be able to speak until you unmute. And of course, if you're not able to ask any questions during the presentation, I'll be putting my phone out there. We'll be able to take direct questions one-on-one later. So if we have any trouble with the unmute thing, just don't worry about that. We can talk later. We're going to give everyone about 2 or 3 more minutes here, see if anyone else is trickling in, and then we'll get started. Okay. Let's see. It's 6:03. It looks like Brian just joined us. I think we're just going to go ahead and get started. Maybe a few more people kind of trickling in, but that's okay. Looks like we're kind of at critical mass. So real quick introductions. My name is Chris Einmo. I am the project manager assigned with the North Santiam Canyon sewer projects for Marion County Public Works. And on this, we have a couple other people from the county. I'll just go through you guys real quick. Alicia, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Alicia Henry. I'm going to be working with Chris on the grant administration part of this. So it's nice to meet you guys. I'm with Marion County Public Works as well.
And Brian?
Hi, everyone, I'm Brian Nicholas. I'm the Marion County Public Works Director. I'm the one who will be signing the checks.
Very glad to have you here, Brian.
Yes.
And we also have Jacqueline Osborne. I'm not sure if you have a microphone, Jacqueline, but you probably all spoke to her arranging this meeting before.
Yep, I have a microphone. Hi, everyone. Jacqueline Osborne, a Senior Office Manager here over at Public Works. I apologize, I'm not on camera, but I am here.
Okay, so we'll kind of just jump into this little bit of overview. We're going to talk about generally the questions that apply to everybody, but we will be doing more one-on-one consultations because each of these properties are unique and you might have individual questions. So what I'll do is kind of talk a little bit about this grant program we've launched. And then at the end, we can have a little Q&A session, or if you just want to hold your questions until we can meet individually, that's fine as well. So just a quick overview of this grant. I think most of you have spoken previously with Marion County staff or with our consultant Keller Associates as we've been gathering info. And what we're doing is a grant program that is federally funded to provide complete reimbursement of the eligible septic costs for all commercial properties. This is the goals of this really are, it's the public water supply protection. That's the basis of the grant and the investments we're making. And we wanted to create this grant option so that we can create more options for business owners, puts you a little bit more in control so you can choose exactly what's going to fit best for your property. And also, because that these commercial septic systems are larger than residential ones, they're more complex. We also wanted to be able to support you through intermediate costs. So you're not just having to spend everything over a number of months and then get one check at the end. So we've set up this program, and I know it looks a little more complicated on paper, but that's so we can make these payments along the way so that we can help pay for your design consultants, or we can provide you with one. We can help pay the retainers, any additional like ongoing costs for bigger projects, and also long lead items, which are still kind of a thing in the current market. Some parts are very long. There's a long period to get certain parts, so you can make those payments as part of this program. So I think the biggest question on everyone's mind is just what's eligible. And so generally speaking, anything that is for a septic system under a permit, if you're zoned commercial, it applies. But there are a couple of points I really want to emphasize. Biggest one, we have a deadline. That this deadline is set by the US Treasury. We don't have control over it, but we need to have the work done by November 1st, 2024. So with the full, depending on how complex the systems are, we definitely don't want to wait to start the permitting process. And the grant is tied to the permit. So everything that you do should be in compliance with either a permit issued by Marion County or by the state DEQ. So with that, there's a lot of different costs that we can actually pay for out of this grant. And the goal is that you can either upgrade or replace your septic system without it costing you anything. And that includes our design. So if you are able to hire a certified designer, or if you have a licensed civil engineer, you can do your septic design that way. That will be covered. If you're repairing an existing system, it's called an alteration, as if you're making that system larger, or if you're changing the way you use it. Those are covered, or if you need to expand it, or if you're just in a state of reconstruction and what's there, it needs to come out and you're installing new. We're trying to cover them all. We also can cover what are called cluster systems. That's where more than one property is served by a single septic. So we are covering that, but that's something that is kind of on a unique case-by-case basis. They do generally require some sort of encumbrances to the properties themselves, and you really want to have a responsible property association that's taking care of the ongoing maintenance. So, those will be addressed case by case, but I think the vast majority are just going to be a single on-site septic system. And the grant is retroactive. So if you performed repair work after August of 2022, that's when we received the grant agreement, that can be covered. So if you've already done that, make sure you're saving all of your invoices and work with us to get you through the grant process. And along with that, if there's any necessary exterior yard piping and just things that are necessary for the collection of wastewater. So again, I know this is a lot here, but all of this will kind of, as we talk to each of you individually, we'll get more of an idea of what your development goals are. Make sure our goal is to make sure that whatever you want to do fits in and can be covered by the grant. And just to get this out there's a few things that are not eligible under the grant. Anything that's either without a permit, or I probably should have said also not in compliance with the permit. Those are things that we just can't cover. Again, if any work was done not by a licensed installer, that is something that is not eligible. And then ongoing and routine maintenance. These are really come into play with certain advanced treatment systems where they have constant aeration or you have to have regular inspections. It's just the way the grant's written, we can't compensate for that. And then any improvements that aren't strictly necessary for a septic system. The example I always use is if you have to take down a fence and you're putting up a new fence and in a different location, it's nothing that stop you from doing that, but it's just not part of the septic system. So the grant can't cover that and things like that. But again, all this will be done on a case by case. And then this is one important one that Treasury is going to look at. This is a Treasury funded project. You can't double dip. So if you have insurance payments, or if you're receiving help from FEMA aid and so on, whatever they have paid, we can't pay for that portion. But if they, let's say they paid for 50% of the cost, we can cover the other 50%. So the goal is to make sure everything is completely covered. You just can't have the two funds overlapping. So next steps to get all of you into this process. Like I said, it is an aggressive deadline, and we want to help everybody get into this process as fast as possible. And the way we're doing that is setting up initial one-on-one consultations. Our goal with these is really just, well, what's the best way that we can help all of you? So there could be a lot of different stages of development. Some of you may already have a set of plans ready to go. We want to put the system in, and we want to help you with that. Some of you may not be sure yet what you want to do with your property, and you might have to make some decisions now in order to make sure you can take advantage of the program. That's okay. We can help you with that too. And whatever stage of the development you're in, we want to make sure that we make the program work for you. And there may be a lot of specific questions to each property. Each one is it's a completely separate project. So the more we can help understand that, the better we can help you with it. And the timeline. So I'll talk more about this in a moment, but the septic grant process is separate, totally separate from your permit. And we can help you with understanding those permit timelines, because those are going to be very dependent on the type of system you're building. So we want to make sure that whatever you're doing fits in the permit timeline and still meets the grant timeline, so you can take advantage of the grant. And then we are in the process now of having a septic consultant under contract so that the county can provide you one. Or if you already have a consultant, or if you just want to choose your own, we can make that happen too. So we'll just want to help you see what that process looks like and help you select a consultant. So all that's going to be really this first initial consultation is very, very high level, not a lot of detail, just helping us to understand where you want to go and kicking off your grant. So the grant process, I'll talk a little bit. I sent everybody out a flow chart. That's a really, very detailed flow chart. I'm not going to go through it in tons of detail here, but definitely refer back to that as you're going through this process. It will help a lot because we have two separate processes happening at once. This is a super simple version. So this is the septic permit in a nutshell. This has always been the septic process. Nothing has changed about the grant. You have, for most commercial systems, you're required to have a design consultant. You get an authorization permit for county inspectors or DEQ to come on site, do a site visit, and you work with your designer and your certified septic installer to get your plans together, and then you're issued a commercial septic permit. That's really simplified version of the permit process. Hasn't changed, but we now have a simplified grant process. And the reason we did this is because at each step of the way, there are things we can do to help pay for those costs. In addition to the fact that we are taking care of the permit costs, we can help with getting that initial consultation, getting your consultant on board, and then helping you to pay those costs. Once we have that, then we can take in your actual plans that are from your permit, and we can create the grant application. So there's going to be an application that either goes out, or you may have already received a copy of it actually, but that grant application is, we don't expect you to have that before you first come in for your consultation. That's something we're going to help you put together depending on exactly what you want to do on your property. And then once we have that, we need to make sure that you have a certified installer under contract. And once we know what they're going to build, then you're going to get quotes. And those quotes form the basis of the grant agreement. If we know how much the system is going to cost, we can give you a grant agreement and a letter stating that this is the amount the county will pay for. One thing I want to really emphasize this, that the grant agreement that we're giving you is not a septic permit. So you still have to go through the same septic permit, but we're going to help you every step of the way. And just to kind of touch on a couple of the questions I've already heard so far, there may be plenty of others, but I get this question about, can I still benefit if I don't really have any plans or I don't know what I'm doing with my property? Absolutely, you can. We want to help you build something that is going to serve your future property. And that's the best way to take advantage of the grant by the deadline. It might involve kind of making some decisions about what that development's going to look like. That's why we kind of want to meet one-on-one with that. But yes, you can absolutely start, and you don't want to wait until you have final plans before you start the grant process, because you might run out of time. Do you have to follow federal aid requirements? Not most of them, no, because you are grant recipients. I'm sorry, not recipients. You're not grant recipients. I'm using the wrong language. You are grant beneficiaries. As beneficiaries, most of those rules that apply to federal aid projects don't really apply to beneficiaries, so it's much more simplified. If the county were coming in and building it, then we would have to follow all of the federal aid requirements for public entities. That can get complicated. That can take a lot of time. So having a grant process really streamlines it. Can you get reimbursed? Absolutely. Just make sure you have all of your invoices together. We need to see that it was from a licensed installer and that everything you did was per the permit. But you can absolutely get reimbursed. just main thing is reach out and set up that consultation. We'll help you with putting together the as-built drawings and the documentation that you need. And I have been asked a question, what kind of, am I going to be able to permit this through the county, or do we have to go through DEQ? The short answer is it really depends. The county can permit certain types of systems up to 2,500 gallons per day. And if you're able to do that, it's going to go through, it's just a lot faster. Permits that are larger or certain types of systems will need to go through DEQ, can take a little longer. So we definitely, that's still completely eligible under the grant, but we want to start now. Okay, so I'm sorry if this sounds like a lot of information all at once. I promise no one's going to be tested. Don't have to remember all of this. It's just to give a quick overview. Some of this may not apply to you. A lot of points, others may. So at that, I'm just going to open it up to general questions any of you might have. And you may have to, if you're on Zoom, you may have to unmute yourselves at this point. If you called in, I believe it's *76 to unmute yourself. But if I got that wrong, I apologize. And if you're not able to, you can also, I'll say my phone number here at the end.
Are you ready for a question, Chris?
I am. Please go ahead.
My name's Bob Bradford. Can I get your email and phone number? I did not receive any information from you. We have purchased an RV park just last week, and we received the email through the person that had it because she's been in contact with you. So if I can get that from you, because I haven't received any information.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll tell you what, I'll see if there's, I'm going to stop my screen share for a moment. And I'll just put my information right in the chat. And anyone who's on a phone, just go and grab a pen and I'll read this out as I type it in. So my name is Chris Einmo. My last name is spelled E-I-N-M-O. And my email address is ceinmo@co.marion.or.us.
Perfect.
Okay. And then I'll go ahead and put up my phone number as well. It's 503-566-4119.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris.
I'll just put that in the chat right now so everyone can copy that.
I'm curious to hear what other questions people have.
Okay.
So,
sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say, so we email you, Chris, to reach out to get a consultant or to get a time to meet with someone?
Yes,
Is
you
that
can
how
either
that process goes?
you can either email me. Also put Jacqueline's email up there. And Jacqueline will be also scheduling. And Jacqueline, I'm sorry if I typed that wrong. I really hope I got it right. But she's the one who's going to be scheduling all the consultations and booking the conference rooms. So you can also email her.
So
That's right.
both of you.
Yep, it's good to one of us, and we'll make sure it happens.
All right, thank you.
No other questions. If there aren't any other questions, there are a couple of things I want to jump in and share with everybody.
Okay.
And you may be talking but are muted. So so far, Bob's the only one who's unmuted himself. I'll give everybody a minute to see if anybody else has a question to chime in with. All right. Chris, would you share that presentation again and go to the slide that shows the permitting process and the grant process? So we'll go over, Chris and Alicia will go over with property owners when they meet with you one-on-one. I do want to point out a few things in this process. The first, just so folks know, most commercial grade septic systems require an ODOT certified design consultant. And that design consultant ought to know just about everything there is to know about the types of systems that are available for you based on permit regulations. You know, the county has no individual septic permit regulations. We just follow the state code. So there's nothing additional when you're permitting in Marion County. There's nothing different in the rules between when Marion County issues the permit or when DEQ issues the permit. It's just that DEQ hasn't authorized us to issue certain types of permits. But these commercial systems usually require a design consultant. So we've gone out and we've added one of the most experienced commercial septic design consultants in the state to be that person. They're under contract with the county, but we've retained them to be your design consultant if you'd like the county to just provide the design consultant to you. We went and made sure we got one of the highest caliber outfits out there to help with this. So if you're looking for just the easiest way to get started, we can connect you with our design consultant once we do the one-on-one consultation with you to make sure you understand, make sure we have a little bit of understanding of what your site looks like and what your development goals are. The next step will be getting you in consultation with the commercial design consultant, and they can help you really start talking the technical side and what that process looks like. So that's why on this sheet, you know, on the septic permitting side, it says design consultant, and septic grant says initial consultation. Those two kind of go together, right? So those two kind of go together. On the septic permitting flow chart there, the authorization permit. So the authorization permit is actually an authorization that you grant to Marion County or to the Department of Environmental Quality that allows our county septic technicians to go on your property, verify the soil conditions, do that kind of a thing. So it's actually an authorization that you grant to us. And you'll submit that by coming into the Marion County Public Works office and filling out the form. It's an authorization form. And while you're here doing that, submitting the septic authorization form, we're going to have you fill out the grant application at the same time. So those two go together. It just tells us information about your property and who you are and your eligibility that's not on the standard septic permit authorization form. Then, you know, once you're connected with your design consultant and you are figuring out your system, Marion County technicians, our septic technicians, they'll come out and they'll do that site visit I just talked about, the site visit that the authorization permit lets us do. And they will, our staff will work with you and the design consultant and answer any questions that you or the consultant might have about site conditions, soil conditions, those kind of things that the soil scientists use to size septic systems, that sort of thing. At the same time, that's about the time that you're going to be engaging your installer to give you pricing on what installation of the system that the design consultant is recommending. Here's what I think is going to happen. The design consultant is going to let you know what your range of options are. And that's about that time you're going to want to get an installer on board to tell you what the cost is going to be. When you do have that contract in place with your installer, we're going to need a copy of it. That's why site visit and installer contract go together between septic permitting and the septic grant. Then, you know, your certified septic installer is on board and has given you the installation quotes. We need to see what that looks like so that we know how much you're going to need in terms of grant dollars, because the final step in the permitting process is the county or DEQ issuing you your septic permit, installation permit. And at the same time, we'll be executing a grant agreement with you that specifies all the terms of the grant and the exact dollar amount that you'll be receiving in the end. So, so these two processes, the septic permitting process, like Chris said, it's the same septic permitting process, unchanged. It's just the permitting process that's been in place forever. But the grant process has to plug into it at 5 different places, and that's what this looks like. So mostly what I wanted to reinforce was the need for a commercial design consultant, and whether you hire your own or you use the one that Marion County has retained, there shouldn't be any cost to you. In fact, in the big picture here is before the fire, there were a lot of commercial businesses that were operating with a septic system that was basically built back in the day, some without permits, some with parking lots paved over them. And they would not meet the commercial septic standards of today. However, you don't have to rely on those old systems. This grant program will pay for the complete replacement and installation of a modern code compliant commercial grade septic system. So it's a great opportunity to really upgrade your system and have your site ready for whatever development you want to do on it in the next year, in the next year, next 2 years, next 5 years. So I'm curious if that has generated any questions in your mind that you want to ask.
It's pretty clear.
Brian,
Who's Frank Morris?
Brian,
Frank, it looks like you're logged in twice somehow.
Oh, that's the guy asking a question.
Frank, I ran into this before. If you're able to, you can log out of Zoom, make sure you exit the program and log back in, and that should fix the echo.
Hey, Frank, is there a way for you to type in the chat your question, or it looks like you might be on 2 devices? So maybe, like Chris said, just try logging out and then just using one platform. That way you don't have the echo. Nope, looks like it's still echoing.
how's that? Can you hear me now?
Much better.
Much better.
Okay, this is Troy from the Detroit RV Park, along with my father, Frank. And maybe this is a question for both Chris and Brian. We have a one-on-one coming up next week. And I guess one of our questions is, we've got a little bit of a preliminary drawing set up, but have not met with the design consultant. What should we expect on a one-on-one? Do we want to provide our preliminary drawing that we have, or what can we expect?
That's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, if you have an any preliminary drawings, sketches, whatever it is that kind of captures what you want to do with your site, you can absolutely bring that in. It's not required. So if you don't have, if anybody out there doesn't have one yet, that's okay. But if you can bring in those drawings, that would be a huge help to us, just to help kind of get a conceptual idea of what you want to do with your site. And then what to expect in terms of that will be helping you to pair up with that consultant, whether it's going to be passed to the septic designer
Oh, here it is.
that the county will provide, or if you already have a design team that you're thinking about doing, we can help you see how the grant program fits into that.
Okay, great. Yeah, we're again getting quite a bit of information that we've been kind of dissecting here as time will allow, and so there's a lot to take in, and I thank you guys for all the good valuable information that you provided at this point. I don't think we'll have any problems getting our stuff ready to go, like I said, very soon. And to meet the deadline, that should not be a problem from our end. But anyways, do you have any further questions?
Well, the only thing that my concern is we have the park's going to be full for the summer. But so I want to get it all set up and then be ready to go like in September. So I guess I want to work around it because we've committed to our customers and I don't want to disrupt them if we can avoid it.
Well, great
Yeah.
question.
Yeah,
And that's.
Yeah, Chris, I want to jump in and answer this. So, this grant program, it came from the very first community meeting we had back in December up at the Detroit Community Center. We had that very first meeting because this money had landed in our lap from the legislature with the dedicated purpose of getting commercial septics built so the Detroit commercial core could rebuild. And it was me and Peter Olson from Keller Associates, our consultant, were there presenting to the group. And Frank, I think you were there. I recognize your name from the list of folks that were present. We basically said, hey, about the best thing we can figure out right now is maybe we can build little commercial septic systems sprinkled around downtown, and then we'll hook multiple properties up to it, and the county could build it. But it would probably require some people to either dedicate their parcel to septic use so that other parcels could benefit from it, or just something. We didn't have any place to put, a lot of the parcels are kind of small up there. So we didn't have a place where we could get enough drained field to serve the whole commercial area. And that didn't go over too well. I mean, people were really nervous about being tied to their neighbors and whatever their development plans were. And most people in December of last year just didn't. There were so many people in the room that had no idea what their redevelopment plan was going to be. So I asked the question whether a grant program might work for folks, and I got a general, yeah, that would be great. So that's how this came to be. The great thing about this grant program, I mean, the best thing about this grant program is the grant process will move just as fast as you're able to move on the permitting process. All the templates are in place, and we'll be able to move with you to get that grant in place. And then that puts you completely in charge with your project schedule. You're going to build the system. You're going to engage the installer and have it built. So you get to decide when the work's going to be done, how it's going to be done, how it's going to be configured, so it doesn't disrupt how you're using your site now. So all of that is in your control.
Okay, good. Yeah, we just don't want to lose business, but we want to get more in line with getting this done before the deadline. And so again, the summer months are our money months, and so we don't want to lose business. But
Yeah,
thank you.
yep. And it's unfortunate we weren't able to get this rolled out earlier. so that systems could have been installed before the start of this recreational season, but things we couldn't get it to move that fast. So yeah, people will have to make do with what they have in place for the summer, and then this fall and next spring, I see a lot of systems going in during that window. All right. Any other questions?
Brian, I wanted to tell you, thank you for all your added to that. It made a lot of sense. So we appreciate that.
Yep. Does anybody here have commercial zone property that fronts Highway 22?
Yes, we do.
Let's see. We're going to want to talk to you specifically about what options for where you can place your drain field. So make sure when you schedule your one-on-one, we'll step through what you may have some additional options on where you can place a drain field. So
Sounds good.
Point those out.
Thank you.
Yep. Is anybody here stuck not knowing what they want to do? I'm concerned that maybe we may have some property owners that don't know what they want to do for reconstruct. They don't necessarily want to sell a property now. They're not sure, maybe don't have the finances together for redevelopment of the site, but they don't want to miss this opportunity to get a septic system in place. Is there anybody here that that might be in that situation? Because that's something that we can also talk about here. All right. I think the bottom line, if you are in that situation, is you may need to make some decisions over the next 18 months in terms of where to place the system to leave as much of your property available for placing buildings and pavements on and that sort of thing. But your commercial septic consultant, they can really help you make the most efficient use of your site layout. So I don't want people to be scared away thinking, they just need to know some fundamentals about what your development concept might be. Are you interested in constructing a restaurant or retail space or a hotel space, or a duplex as a rental unit, for vacation rentals, that sort of thing, because that will help them understand how to size the system, and then and help you understand where you could put this on the site to take up the smallest footprint, so you leave as much of the property available for redevelopment. So those are decisions that even if you don't have a full concept in your head of what you want to do with the property, it doesn't mean that you can't make smart decisions now. Take advantage of this program, get a system installed, and still maximize the development potential of your property. Unfortunately, that November 1st date is a pretty hard date, so we don't want anybody to miss it. All right, anything else?
I'd probably add as well, if anybody is aware of other businesses, maybe friends, neighbors who have commercial properties, if they weren't able to make this, please feel free to share my contact. I know one of our challenges has always been trying to get hold of folks. So please, don't hesitate to give them my contact or Jacqueline's if they want to be able to take advantage of this as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially, we don't know. It takes a long time for us to find out situations like Mr. Bradford's where they just got title to the property. And that might be happening in multiple properties. And if by any chance you happen to know somebody out there that's eligible, and the eligibility is simply they own commercial zone property in Detroit. That's the eligible group. Anything you can do to help us connect with them, I really appreciate it. All right, that sounds good.
Okay. I'll just point out real quick, if anyone had trouble getting a question in, you can reach out to the chat or send it to my email, or just call me at the, I think our phone users left, but you can call me at the phone number in the chat. So I guess with that, we'll just call it an evening. Thank you, everybody, for your time coming in and attending this. And we look forward to meeting you one-on-one.
Thanks, you guys.
You bet. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.